We good?
Are we on?
Did you press the button? The magic button is on. We are live. Giddy up.
Let's go.
Leanne Stanley, welcome to the Passion Project.
Oh, stoked to be here.
Oh,
so excited.
So fun to have you here.
We've been trying to do this for a couple of years.
I know. We've talked about it for a long time. Yep. So, and you're a snowbird. You don't live in these parts.
I don't. I escape winter, and I come south. It's
Hold on. Say south again.
South.
I think, does that give it away? I think it gives it away. Where are you from?
I'm from Canada.
What side? Where in Canada are you?
So I live on the West Coast now. So I live on Vancouver Island, the east side of Vancouver Island. Glorious place, absolute playground. But I grew up in Ontario.
Yeah. Burr, what's it like up there right now? Nice and warm?
In BC cold. Or in Ontario? Ontario, it's minus double digits.
Yikes.
Celsius.
Gotcha. Well, the reason that you're here, and it's amazing because I don't know how many world-class paddlers come from the Great White North, but you are certainly one of them with international accomplishments across multiple crafts over the last, 20 plus years. I met you through the paddling world. You've got Puake on your shirt. We've had Johnny in that chair. What brings you out here right now? What brings you down?
So I've had the privilege of working with Johnny Puake for a number of years and coaching the women's camp. So we just finished 4 days of camp with one group, and we start with a whole new group next week. It's just such a popular camp that 1 week wasn't enough, and it sells out in a couple minutes every year.
That's so great.
So get to do it all again next week.
How was it?
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Like every group of women, different combinations. So women are coming from all over the world. And it's just like every combination of personalities is different. So the vibe's just a little different every time we run the camp. But the common thing is just everybody is so encouraging of each other, supportive of each other, listening to people's stories on and off the water. And it's just like, oh, have you ever thought of this? Oh, have you ever thought of that? Like everybody is so open, like it's judgment free. It's just glorious. And we don't have to say, this is a judgment free zone. It's just, that's the vibe that everybody brings together. And it's just such a privilege to be part of. Like it's the highlight of my year every year.
That's so great. I'm glad to get to do it again next week, which is super cool. Yeah. I saw you guys down there yesterday, but I think what you just touched on is why I love paddling so much. Like that is the paddling community. Yeah. Outrigger, that's the nature. It's really got this Hawaiian background, and the fact that you pull people from all over the world to the camp at Newport Aquatic Center, like it's just so cool. But I think it really speaks to maybe why we both love paddling so much, right?
The community is everything. And it's like, doesn't matter where you go in the world. Like if you're around paddlers, you're automatically family. And like they'll take you in and feed you and house you. And you're like, I didn't ask for this, but thank you. And that was one of the things when I, every time I've been able to get my own place, it's just like, okay, I got to be able to house paddlers. And like now it's like, okay, I have to be able to house them and give them boats to use, right? Because I've been given so much. It's like, okay, I want to be able to give that to everybody else that wants to come visit where I live now.
So rad. Well, and because you are you travel the world racing, coaching, etc. But the background is also, you've got a big coaching background, but you come out of the education side. And one of the big things that we'll talk about too, which is very specific to you, is the things that you've dealt with and overcome by way of type 1 diabetes and traumatic brain injury. Yep. And so being able to perform at the level that you do and coach and educate and do all the things you do while managing those two is pretty incredible. And just a moment ago before we came on, you're like, oh, if anything beeps, it might be my glucose monitor there on your, right? Always on, right? So we'll talk a lot about the impact that has, upside and downsides, because there's a big upside, but I'm sure there's some challenges with it as well, right? It's just a little bit, right? Listen, we were talking about being a Canadian and living in different parts of it and how cold it would be and everything. But I don't know. I'm sure there's a big paddling community up there. But before we get into that, there is. Look at your eyes just lit up, right? Big paddling community up there.
Oh, absolutely. Like I think about, it's great because it's grown so much, especially in the last decade. From where I started out in outrigger and even in marathon before that, it's significantly grown in all aspects, and is seeing all the people back home, paddling in the cold, breaking the ice to get to the water, paddling in the snow, all those things. And I'm like, yep, I did that in my early days too. I'm too old for that shit now. Go for it. Have fun.
But again, for those of us fair weather, paddlers, athletes down here in Southern California or Hawaii, like I look at friends that I've got a prone buddy that lives in Canada, and he's paddling. Dan's paddling in ice and snow and full suits and booties and gloves and
dry suits.
Like if it's under, I used to say like if it is below my age, I'm not going. So now it would be below 56. I might not ever paddle in winter. But I mean, it's a whole different element when you really, like, you must have love, passion, dedication to go break through the ice and the snow and go paddle. It's
actually so peaceful when you're out on the water and it's snowing. And there's like a certain kind of snow when it gets on the water, when there's no wind, and it starts to build this slush. And so every time you put your paddle in, it's the slush, and you can see that one spot where your paddle was. So you can see if your paddle slips or not. It's actually kind of cool. But just the sound of your boat going through that little thing of slush, you don't want to hear it going through the ice, because I'm like, ooh, scratchy. Not good. But it's really peaceful out in the snow when there's no wind. When there's wind, that's just the worst, because it just bites your fingers, and it's not quite as enjoyable.
So that's an experience that I've never had, and I'm going to bet you money that I'll never have that one with slush on the surface when I'm paddling. But listen, one of the things that's so incredible about what we get to do paddling, wherever you are, is that you get to go experience on the water when most people want to be in bed or on the couch. Cold, dark, windy, rainy, whatever, like that's what we love. So it's really it's one of those things where people, if they don't experience, even here in Southern California or off our coast, some people experience the coast offshore on a boat, but most people don't ever get out there. And so for us to be able to paddle down through, Orange County, down through Laguna, like you could be anywhere in the world. It's spectacular. And so it's just one of those things that I think once people get access to paddling, which has been a big part of your life, it opens their eyes to like what it's not just a sport, it's not just community or camaraderie, but like you're out in nature, and then if a dolphin comes up or whatever, like it's just additive. So
and it changes how you travel too, because you want to see every vantage point from the water now too. It's like I love traveling, and so it's like I want to see things from the bottom up, from the water in. And I want to go to the highest point I can and look down on everything as well. And it's just, when you're flying, you're like, ooh, that looks like good waves. I could ride that every time you're flying over a body of water.
These are the things, if you're into wind sports, anytime there's wind, you're always going, ooh. Like anytime I'm out here, I'm like, if I'm on a boat going to Catalina, I'm like, oh, it'd be a really fun downwind run from here to there.
Completely.
Like, we all look at things a little differently, which is good. I don't think we're crazy. I think it's actually really smart. But listen,
crazy together.
Crazy together. Well, that might be the title for today. But Leanne, let's go in the Wayback Machine a little bit. We talked about growing up in, or still currently living in Canada. But let's talk about like, how does somebody become, like the path for me is, I always say in this room, like we mostly learn about people from their accomplishments on. Once you had your first big win, or once you came onto the stage, or whatever it may be. But the formative part is what gets a person to that point. Then how do you navigate it, and how do you become a world-class athlete? But how do you, let's talk about it. What was growing up in Canada like? And then we'll talk about when sport came in or how sport came in.
So I was born and raised in Parry Sound, Ontario. So at that time, Parry Sound. So 2 words. And it's about 2 hours north of Toronto. And so on the shores of Georgian Bay, so Lake Huron. And so I was always on the water. And it's
in what format when you're on the water?
So when I was little, young, we my mom was a teacher, and so our summers we went out to the cottage on the bay. So for 2 months you're out on the lake. So all you do is swim, jump off the dock, water ski, tube, wakeboard, like all those kind of things. I guess wakeboarding didn't come until later. But it was like always in the water, on the water. Like those were the old aluminum Grumman canoes, but tooting around. Like I learned to drive a boat on a little 6-horse, and then I graduated to the 25, and then I was allowed to take the 120 ski boat and jet skis and those kind of things. So I was always on the water in my younger years, and around the water. I was an absolute water baby. Like that's where I'm the happiest, is whenever I'm around water, like most paddlers.
Yes, like most of us.
But all through my younger years, come from a family of sport. So like my dad played hockey. My mom did all kinds of sports as well. She was really big into softball, so she was a back catcher. And then, growing up, is like my brother's a hockey player. He went on to play, pro hockey.
We did.
And semi-pro and pro. And he's still involved in the hockey world. Like he's never worked a job in his life.
Wow.
He's like me now. He's a hockey coach. But so I grew up in the sporting world. So, in elementary school, you're playing all the sports: basketball, volleyball, soccer, baseball. I was a figure skater as well. And then, you get into high school, and it's like you start narrowing things down. And so it was like volleyball and soccer. I hated running, so I was the goalie, but I wanted to be involved in soccer because I loved it. So I was the goalie. Volleyball, soccer, track and field. So throwing, discus, shot put, javelin, because again, I didn't like to run at that point. figure skating until I had an ankle injury. And then I only stuck with hockey after that. I started playing hockey in high school. And then late high school, because of a boy, the same one that got me into paddling, I got into cross-country running and cross-country skiing. And so it's just like all these different sports over the years. And then, in the summers, you're water skiing and
so you've
swimming.
always been full-on athletics.
Always been
always,
active.
Always.
Not
And the
necessarily
family was
athletic,
too.
but active. We were always active. Yeah.
Got it. So, well, it's interesting also. Mom was a teacher.
Yeah.
Your brother became a coach.
Yeah.
You're a teacher and a coach.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. There's a thread there we'll discuss as well.
My uncle was a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were in school, let's say when you were in like middle school, high school, like what were you at that time? Did you have a vision where you wanted to go? Like what you wanted to do? You're giggling without.
I'm giggling because it's like, when you're younger, you're looking up at your cousins and all these kind of things. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, in elementary school. Because, at that time, one of my older cousins was going through law school. And then, I started coaching figure skating. I don't know, maybe grade 8, that kind of thing. Like you're helping the littles. And then, as you get through the years, it's just like, your friends are coming to you for help with their math homework and these kind of things. So it's like, I kind of knew like teaching was already in my blood. Like I had that instinct of service of like giving back and having a knack for being able to explain things to people when they didn't understand what the teacher was saying, but I could explain it for them. And then in high school, we have like your work placement, your co-op placement that you do. And so when I was in grade 12, I taught grade 9, 10, 11 math for my co-op because I had already done all my maths, including a grade 13 math by the time I was in grade 12. I had fast-tracked my maths.
We don't have anything like that here I mean, maybe some schools do, but I've never, were you like a student teacher? Were you helping or were you actually?
No, I actually, started off, observing the teacher himself, and then I got to actually plan and deliver lessons.
That's brilliant.
When I was in high school. So other people would go, work as a paralegal or go, work at a car dealership or go work in a hospital, like these kind of things. My work placement was in the school.
In the school. All right. So you were set up to be a teacher from a very young age.
But I went, going to university, it was just like, okay, I don't want to go to school for teaching. I still had a sports med, I'd love to be involved in sports med somehow. When I was getting to the point where I was applying for universities, it was like I was an academic, right? It was like science and math was my jam.
Okay.
And so it was like, okay, do I want to go into chemical engineering or do I want to go into, health sciences? And so it was just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, in my final year of high school, people got hurt on the soccer field, people got hurt on the volleyball court, these kind of things. And like my first instinct was to help them and help diagnose them. And we had a kinesiology course in my grade 13 year. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of like, no, this is my thing. It's like, it's the science, but it's the science of the body. And I was like, okay, we're going to a kinesiology degree program instead of chemical engineering. Best choice ever. And it was just like this knack to help people. I was just like, yep, I want to go there.
Got it. And just for clarity, grade 13, is that high school or is that university?
So
because we here in the US, we stop at grade 12 in high school.
In Ontario until 2000, I think we were the last year, we had what was called, it wasn't called grade 13, it was called OAC, Ontario Academic Credits. So they were essentially university prep courses. And so you could do that and become an Ontario scholar. And so essentially when I got to university, my first year chem, my first year physics, my first year calculus, I was like, oh, this is review. I did this in high school. Kind of thing. So it was 5 years of high school, which is just like after grade 12, I wasn't ready to go away. But after 13, I sure as hell was ready to go away kind of thing.
Got it. And where did you go?
I went to University of Waterloo. So that's in Ontario. So it's a little east of Toronto.
And so because you talked about kinesiology, but you went on to talk about what you did and what that was like.
So University of Waterloo, best known for its computer science and its math programs. So I went there for kinesiology, one, because they offered me an entrance scholarship, but also because they had such a big background in the sciences. I'm like, okay, and their program was science-based. So it wasn't, you go take a volleyball credit, you go take a weightlifting credit, those kind of things. It was all science-based. So it was anatomy, physiology. First year anatomy, we're in working with cadavers to learn anatomy. And it was just fascinating, right? Okay, I pull on this is what moves. It's just like, it's like real life anatomy, so much fun. And except the smell was so bad.
So that's grade 14. So you're 19 years
19,
old?
20.
19, 20.
Yeah. So in
Playing
Ontario, we were legal to drink. Yep.
Got it. Yeah, right. That's right. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Drinking age is still 18?
19.
19.
So it depends on, in Ontario, it's 19. Different provinces can be 18.
Got it.
So it depends on where you live.
Super interesting. All right. I'm sorry. I digress.
Yeah. So go to Waterloo for university, living in residence, living the residence lifestyle, all those kind of things. But because I was a thrower in university, I joined the varsity track team. So this was year 2000, so Sydney Olympics had just happened. And so I would go out with the track team in September, and they're like, oh yeah, our head coach will be back in a couple weeks because he's been in Sydney coaching Team Canada for track and field. And I was like, frickin' A. Yeah. But as a thrower and a shot putter, because it's indoor track, so the only thing I could throw we had was shot put. But they made us train with the sprinters to develop just that speed and that power.
Fast twitch or whatever?
Exactly. And so it's like, I'm out there, and like, I didn't really like to run, but I just started running the year before. And so developed a lot of fitness really quick, met a whole lot of great people through the varsity track team. And then that kind of just sets your tone for the year of, here's all your track meets, here's what you're doing. But it was the family that I met through our throwing group and our coach, Tim Musser, is just like those folks that we train with, like there's a handful of them that I keep in touch with now. So when I go over to Singapore, like next week or 2 weeks from now, I go to Singapore frequently now. One of the girls that I trained with for shot put, she's from Singapore. She lives in Singapore. She started paddling after we graduated university. I hadn't seen her in 20 years before I went over to Singapore a few years ago. It's like no time has passed. It's the same exact relationship that we used to have when we train, all those kind of things. So like doing varsity sports really set the tone for my university career. There was a group of us, I think there were 7 of us in our first year where we're like, there's no women's varsity hockey. Why is there no women's varsity hockey? Like, what the hell? There's men's varsity hockey. Why don't we have women's? And so we went through the process of setting up a varsity team. Like, it was a multi-year process. We had to reach certain milestones as set out by the athletic department. And so we started doing that, recruiting other girls, playing as a club team for a bit. And then by my 3rd year, they had varsity status. Wow. And it was just like, okay, cool. And then I got asked to come play rugby too. And I was just like, up until recently, my one regret in life was not going out for the rugby team. I was big, I was strong, like that kind of thing. But now with my head injury issues, I'm like, ooh, no, that's probably a good idea.
A little foreshadowing there too.
Exactly. Right? So yeah, played hockey for the first couple of years. When varsity came for hockey, I was the last defenseman cut. And I walked out of my coach's office, and right next door was the athletic therapy office where I was already spending a lot of time for my shot put. And I want to be their trainer. I want to be on the bench. I want to be the one to look after their injuries and prep them for games, like the pre-game stretching, post-game stretching, tape their whatever needs to be taped of body parts, those kind of things. It's like, okay, yeah, I want to be their athletic trainer.
So but it was perfect timing. You're going through the kinesiology. You've already been doing the coaching. You play the sport, so you get to do the practical application, which is kind of what you did in high school. You were teaching while you were a student. Yeah. It's really interesting how it all kind of, like you were in the right place at the right time for what you were into. Completely.
And it's just like, I helped start this program. I still want to be involved. And so it was like the skills that I really had to learn, because all my courses covered, sports injuries and those kind of things and the anatomy going along with it. And it's just like, the only thing I had to learn was how to sharpen skates, which turned out to be super fun as itself, but I still have some scars.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm a firm believer in the universe putting things in your path at appropriate times. And I don't necessarily know sometimes what the role of that door is, but I'm going to take it just to see what happens. And that's what happened after university with diabetes. And I was just like, okay, well, who knows what can happen? Like, why not just go out and play whatever, like try whatever. If it doesn't affect my health and safety or the health and safety of someone else, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I'm going to put a pin and we're going to get back to diabetes for sure. But let's continue on. So you get your undergraduate degree. I don't know if that's what you guys call it in Canada, but in kinesiology, but you don't stop. You keep going on in school, right?
Yeah. So up until about the end of second year, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna med school's the plan. And then I hit organic chemistry. I was like, oh shit. When I hit inorganic chemistry, not taking inorganic chem. And that's what I needed to have that to go to med school. And I'm like, fuck no. And so then I started looking at other avenues. What can I do with this degree? Because I'm definitely in the right realm. But medicine, like going to med school's out of the picture now. And so then I started to explore massage therapy because I'd been told I had a knack for that kind of thing. And so it's like I took some courses at a massage school just on the side to get an advanced. If I wanted to go into it, then I could get only a 1-year program instead of a 2-year program.
Because were you still directing you thinking you were going to go down the path of kinesiology?
Yeah, I was still going to finish that degree. It was just like, okay, what after that? What prerequisites do I need for more school afterwards? Where am I going? I knew there was always going to be more school. And so then I did that for a bit. And then it came into, I think it was the summer after my 3rd year, I was back home. And so usually, like, I used to work at a camp supply store outside of Provincial Park, renting canoes, pumping gas, selling fishing tackle and camping gear, and scooping ice cream, making fudge. Best summer job ever. It was 10 minutes from the cottage,
That's
right?
so great.
And so I came home, and then I got a call from the then principal of the high school going, by any chance, do you want to come in and sub for the rest of the year? And I was like, okay, it was 2 phys ed courses and an art course. And I'm like, I know shit about art. I took music and math and science. Like, I know. Me and art, nah. I appreciate it, but I can't do it. Unless it's one of those nice coloring books. So I was just like, why not, right? Talked to my boss, and he said, yep, no problem, we're good. And got in and ran the PE classes for the last, 5 weeks of the school year. I had to write report cards. I had to do all this stuff. I was just like, done, sold, I'm out. I've fought it. This is what I'm meant to do. Mm-hmm. It was just like teaching. Yep, that's the jam. So it's like my 4th year, I had to rearrange some courses to make sure I had to go take some activity courses from another university to be able to get into phys ed and science for teaching, because my degree was all science, but I needed a teachable. And so I had to go take some actual phys ed courses from another university.
Got it. So when you do that pivot, or you recognize the direction you're going to go, was there you're like, okay, I want to be this kind of teacher at this level, or were you like, I just want to go through it and again, see where I end up?
I knew it was always going to be high school.
Okay.
It's always been high school. I like it. Sounds weird, but I like it when the kids can talk back. It's just me and littles, now with my niece and nephew, I'm getting better, but I'm sorry to everybody that has kids. I don't like little kids. I can't understand. I can't comprehend. I just can't. It's not me. Me and teenagers, bring it on. When they start, being defiant and being oppositional and questioning everything, it's just like, yeah, let's do this. Game on.
You can speak their language. I mean, yeah.
And it's just about building relationship. And it's just I could relate to them and start to get them to see why this actually matters. Was just the knack I had. So it was like, okay, yeah, teaching is going to be my jam. Let's pivot, get the courses I need to go on to teacher's college. So when I graduated with my kinesiology degree, then I went on to teacher's college the next year. I went from Waterloo for my undergrad to Nipissing University in North Bay, Ontario. So I went further north than I used to live for teacher's college. And it was a year-long course. And then so you have to do practicums through that. So you go to different schools. And so I got to do my practicums back at my old high school with my kinesiology teacher and my PE teacher in high school, Ms. Peggy Graham Morale. And just her style just suited me, which is why I wanted to do my practicum with her, because I wanted to see what's in behind the scenes. How do you think about this? How do you plan this? That kind of stuff. And then I got to do a grade 8 placement where I went to middle school. And so a lot of the staff are still the same. And then my final placement was in Toronto at an outdoor ed center.
Outdoor ed.
Because growing up, being an athletic, growing up in nature, all that kind of stuff, I was just like, all right, I could see myself teaching outdoor ed at a high school. And so I wanted to get that idea around that. So I was privileged enough to be back in Toronto and do that.
What a cool path. I love the fact that you kind of, not that the universe spoke to you, which it sounds like it did to a degree, but you also developed clear paths on once you've realized you wanted to become a teacher, okay, I want to go do this.
100%.
I want to go learn from this person. I want to go do the outdoor ed because it's what you're it's cool when it all kind of comes together and you get a clear vision of where you want to go. So you finish that. Now, what's interesting is paddling has never come up. At this point in your life, you're still not a paddler.
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are.
Oh, I am.
We'll get back to it.
Oh, I am.
Let's stay on career then. So where do you go? You get your degrees.
Yeah.
And you ended up with a master's in education. Is that what you got with the teachers?
First, when you go to teacher's college, you end up with a bachelor's. So you come out of, you have to do your 4-year degree, and then you go do a 1-year bachelor's of ed. And so I have 2 bachelors of ed at that point. There's more later on. So bachelor's of ed, and then it's like, okay, where do I want to find a teaching job? And so, unfortunately, in Ontario, bulk of the jobs are in the big cities. And so went down and I worked I had a boyfriend at the time. who lived in Toronto. So he worked at Ryerson and ran a camp at Ryerson. And so I went and worked at that same camp at Ryerson University, teaching their leadership courses for that camp. So it was like they'd have day campers, that kind of stuff. And then, when the kids get into teenagers, you want to teach them some of the leadership skills so then they can be the counselors. So I was brought in to be the leadership counselor kind of thing to help, give them different tasks, activities, like how do we build your leadership skills? And so that was my job over the summer, looking for a job for the fall. Because the boyfriend and I, we wanted to live together and those kind of things. So it was like I wanted to be in Toronto, and there's just multiple different school boards around, so there's more options. And then just before the school year started, I had a few interviews, and I got an offer of a part-time gig. So I was like, cool, done. It's a job, right? It's a start. And so I got a job at a high school in Toronto with 400 kids, which is unheard of in a metropolitan area, to have a high school that small. But it's this tiny little school. We had a pool. It was quite an immigrant population. And so English second language, we call it ESL. And so it was like a 55% ESL school. So there's a lot of English language learners. But I just liked, Linda Curtis was the principal at the time. And I was just like, you and I, it meshed. And it was just like, okay, met her for the first time. And I'm like, that's I want to be like her. This is awesome. And so started teaching there, and within the first couple of weeks, the enrollment numbers had changed and that kind of stuff, and then I was able to be offered full time. So by taking, a less than contract instead of holding out for something, I ended up getting a full-time contract, and I stayed at that school until I chose to leave.
Got it. Which was how long?
4 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So coaching, teaching continues on.
Oh, yes.
But I brought it up, let's talk about paddling. Where does paddling fit in to this multi-sport person with going through the kinesiology, coaching on all these different teams, starting young? Where does paddling come in? You talk about growing up on the water, but paddling, other than paddling a canoe, doesn't sound like there was much. So where did paddling come in?
Paddling came in 1998, grade 11 chemistry, cute boy. This is how I recall the conversation. He might say it differently. It was just you're big, you're strong, come try this. There's a group of them the year before that had gotten into marathon canoes. So
what's a marathon canoe for anybody that doesn't know?
So marathon canoes, sit and switch. So just like outrigger, single bladed paddle. The paddle's a little smaller surface area. We're mostly lakes and rivers.
How many people in a boat?
One or two. So we had singles, we had doubles. They're kind of diamond shape. They start really narrow and then they bulge out and then they come back.
But this is a racing canoe.
Carbon fiber, Kevlar, super light.
You don't see many of them in coastal California, but you would see these in lakes and rivers.
Yeah. Really popular in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Really popular in Quebec. We have a few of them sprinkled out. There's a hub in Manitoba. And then there's a few sprinkled out throughout.
And I think it's big in different parts of the world. Isn't it big in South Africa? They do these.
So they call it marathon paddling, but they often use K1s and
which
K2s for it. So
flat
a kayak.
water racing kayak.
Yeah, or river kayaks, those kind of things. So at the international level, what International Canoe Federation calls marathon is you're still up on your high kneel doing 5K.
Got it.
Or you're in K1s and you're doing 10K.
All right, it's not what you were doing.
No.
So you're sitting in it like a canoe, but a racing canoe, one or two people paddling, alternating sides.
Yeah, calling hut. Except we actually changed on the hut.
So similar to outrigger.
Completely similar.
Okay.
And so I got started in that, and it was just the first time I set foot in the canoe by myself in the C1, canoe one person. It was just I'm in control. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was in the driver's seat and that I was in control. Because up until that point, bless my family, I love them to death, but I spent every weekend in the car following my brother. And
the hockey player.
And so it was just this was something that my parents knew nothing about, my brother knew nothing about. I wasn't expected to follow in his footsteps in this or achieve whatever level of, these are my own thoughts, nobody else put this on me, or achieve whatever he had because he was an overachiever just like I am. And it's just this is mine. And it's when we're out paddling, the canoe responds to what I give it. So if I want to go, then I can go. If I don't feel like working, then that's on me. There's no one else to blame. There's no one else to take credit. It's all me. And it's just okay, I'm in the driver's seat. What do I want to do with this? And my coach, Gord Cole, like we're still friends to this day. He's amazing. He gave me so many opportunities. And it was just like, and I don't know at this day and age if, a lot of parents would let their teenage daughter get in the car with a 50-year-old guy to like go a couple hours away for a weekend. But that's the way it was. It was a small town. Everybody knew everybody. And so he took me on as his partner. So we'd race the adult races when I was 17, 18 years old. And we'd travel around the province racing other adults. And so he just took me under his wing, and just like the strategy of it, the training for it, the physiology, like it's just the skill was just huge. So like a lot of my paddling roots goes back to Gord on the river in Parry Sound with like, there was a couple girls, but it was mostly boys. And it was just chasing everybody around the river and getting them to chase me. So we talk about in paddling about wash riding, right? I learned those right off the bat. All that.
Just for anybody not recognizing it, what's wash riding?
So there's always waves on the water. You just have to know where to look. So when you have a canoe, there's waves that come off the bow, come off the middle, and come off the stern. So wash riding is using those waves to take the energy off yourself and get pulled along a little bit. So you can ride right behind another canoe. You can ride beside it.
It's like cycling. It's like in a peloton,
drafting.
You can draft.
It's drafting.
Yeah.
Same thing.
NASCAR. That might speak to some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So started paddling marathon at the end of grade 11, and that just opened up so many doors, right? I'm traveling for myself. I now have a driver's license, right? And so just exploring the world with paddling, or the province with paddling, provincial championships, national championships. And at the same time, I'm playing hockey. I'm driving myself to hockey practice. I'm driving around for hockey tournaments and those kind of things, playing community soccer with the women's league, traveling around with that.
So you're doing all these sports, but you just said it, national champ. Like from a competitiveness of all those sports, did paddling like quickly buoy to the top of your accomplishments?
Not necessarily accomplishments. Like I wasn't necessarily winning things, but I was always in the mix. And so it was just like, it wasn't.
How fun was that? Because is that different from, so in all the other sports you were playing, were you ever in the mix, or were you always below the mix or above? Like
I was always in the top third. I was never the best.
Story of my life right there.
Right. Ask me how many fourths I've gotten at Worlds.
Right. How many fourths have you gotten in Worlds?
4 or 5.
How many firsts?
Solo 2.
Hey, okay, so we can get into a lot more.
Yeah.
You see, some of us have never had, like I've gotten some fourths. I've never got any firsts.
All the fourths came before any of the firsts.
Mm-hmm. That's the work.
Exactly. Right? And so with paddling wise, it was like, you don't have to qualify provincials. You don't have to qualify for nationals. You can just show up kind of thing. So it was just like, why not? If it's close, why not? So I think my first nationals was in New Brunswick. And I'm like, all right. I'd been out there, I think that was 2000. And I'd been out there in 1999 for a summer program at University of New Brunswick called Shad Valley, which is like a STEM program at the time. And so I was like, oh, cool, New Brunswick, let's go back out. So my boyfriend and I at the time, and my parents, we road tripped out. And so I raced mixed with my boyfriend at the time. And then I raced solo as well. And we did okay. It was cool. I was like, all right, this is something. Like I'm actually, I'm not mid-pack to upper echelon anymore. Like I'm up in the podium spots. This is kind of cool. And we're racing juniors, and we're racing against adults as well. And then 2001, we're in Manitoba racing nationals, and things just keep progressing and progressing. And the more I get this taste of like, ooh, I was so close to this person. Ooh, I was so close to this person. Like these big names in the Canadian marathon scene, I'm like, oh, like I'm close. Like, holy shit, what do I need to do to do that? What do they do? What do I need to train? Like, what do I have to change? And then so after high school, I kept paddling all through university.
Is that kind of where you found the competitive fire? Like sounds like you've been doing sports, but when you started to taste it and could see it and started to think about, again, you put together all the things, all the history of sport, history of coaching. You've had some incredible people in your life in the education side, and you said in marathon, like people have really influenced you. It sounds like you've had amazing mentors, but then you get to this point and you're like, I can see where I want to go.
And I don't have to do it at the detriment of anyone else. So like in hockey, you had to be aggressive. Right. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I need to push this person off the puck, or I have to, if they go after my goalie, I have to take them out, like all these kind of things. Whereas like in paddling, it's all you on your own merit and your own strategy and all these things. And it's just like everybody does the best they can at that day. Some times your best is better than someone else's best, but I'm not having to, push them out of the way or hit them or take anything away from that person trying their best. It's
you're competing against them, but you're really competing with yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's always just trying to better myself.
100%.
And like if I come off a race and it's just like, again, it was back to if I want to put that effort in, then I get the spoils. If I don't, then it's just on me. I'm not letting anyone else down kind of thing. And so it's like getting that taste. I was like, okay, that's where it really lit the fire in me. It's like, okay, this is where I can push myself. And like, I knew really early that this is my jam. Like I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life, because the people that I'm training with and paddling with and meeting at all these races, they're all 30 years older than I am, 20, 30 years. I'm the young kid. And it's just like, this is a lifelong sport. Like, this is phenomenal. Like, I want to be like them when I grow up, this kind of thing.
Is that coming to fruition?
It is. And they're still paddling,
Yeah.
right? They're 70s, 80 years old. And like, there's a woman that I've met through outrigger who's 90. She still drives herself down to the lake, takes her kahele off the car, and launches and goes paddling. And I'm like, I want to be like that when I grow up. And it's just like, this is a phenomenal community and sport to be able to see that longevity in it. And then, all those people that gave to me in my early years, I'm now at a point where I feel comfortable in my knowledge. And it's just like, no, like I need to find the me that's a teenager or a 20 something, or even if, I don't care if they're older than me. It's just like, I want to find these people that have that fire in them and that keenness so that I can help raise them up, because I had so many people help raise me up and bring me to where I am. And it's like, I'm super privileged to have all the opportunities I've had. And it's just like, I just wanted, how can I give these opportunities to other people?
You sound like a coach, right? There it is, 100%. Listen, that's rad, and that'll take us. We're going to talk more about racing and accomplishments and all that, and also about coaching. But you've mentioned it, I mentioned it, and offline you had shared with me about your diabetes.
Yeah.
How old were you when you realized? Tell the insulin story that you told me earlier.
So I had just started teaching in 2005. I went through my first year teaching.
How old were you at that time, roughly?
24.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, I had to do the math. 24 years old, full-time teaching, living in Toronto, living on my own. Boyfriend we hadn't yet moved into our own place together. And it was just like, I'm coming home from teaching and I'm just exhausted. Like first year teaching's hard, right? You're learning so much on the job. And so like the workouts that I'd been doing up to that point weren't really much. I had elbow surgery when I was in teacher's college, so that knocked me out a little bit. And I just couldn't quite get that activity level back that I had pre-elbow surgery. And so it's just like, okay, what's going on? And it got to the end of the school year and I'm sitting in the gym teaching PE from a chair because I am exhausted. And I'm like, what the hell? So like we have our annual physicals with our doctor, these kind of things, but I'm from a small town and 6,000 people. So your doctor's your friend's parents. And so you usually go in and you go shoot the shit and you go, how are you? How are you? How's the kids? How are your parents? Da, 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 da. And this time when I'm like, I feel like crap. Like I feel like crap. And so this may be TMI, but it's a story. So you do the dipstick test with the urine and that kind of stuff. And it came out that there was some glucose in my urine. And so she sent me across the street for blood work. And it came back that I had they tested for an A1C, which is the level of glucose kind of average over the last 3 months in your blood. And it was high. It was super high. And so all I remember, I had this vision of being in her office after we got the results of the blood test, and she's telling me, she's like, do you have diabetes in your family? I'm like, no. Well, you do now. Like, that's how I recall the conversation. That's not what happened.
Right.
But that's how the memory sticks with me. And I was like, well, fuck. But I was diagnosed as type 2. So where it's like I produce insulin, but my body just isn't sensitive to it enough. And so I was like, okay. So, they put me on metformin, which is a type 2 diabetes drug, and gave me a glucose monitor, and it's like prick your finger, these kind of things. I did some education for type 2 about, counting carbs. So how much, so that I wouldn't have blood sugar spikes. But, going through that for 6 months, and it's like, there's no change in my A1C, no change in my blood sugar. And then, so I go back to the doctor at Christmas time, because, I'm living in Toronto, but I come back home for Christmas and summer holidays and these kind of things. So I have my doctor's appointment at Christmas time, and she's like, have you not seen an endocrinologist? I'm like, no. She's like, I sent the referral. And I'm like, no. So she gets on the horn. Referral got lost. So February, It's now February 2007, I think. And so Women's College Hospital in Toronto, see an endocrinologist, Dr. Lipscomb, still remember her. And she's just like, we're going over medical history. And she's just like, you're type 1. You're type 1. You're starting insulin today. We'll do a blood test and then you're going to learn how to use insulin. And I was like, okay. Like anything to help get some energy. Like this sucks. And so got the blood test. Yep, confirmed type 1, learned insulin. I got my first shot of insulin from that nurse. Holy fuck. I was like best drug ever.
Changed everything?
Changed everything. So I thought it was normal for everybody's eyes wanted to bulge out of their head. I thought that was normal. I thought that it was normal that everybody's head had this constant fog and constant pressure. Like I didn't know any different. That's how I'd felt all my life. And then, except when I was paddling. So I just thought that was normal. Everybody lived with that. And then I got insulin and I was like, holy fuck, here we go. And at that point, like, I still have a great relationship with the guy I was dating at the time, but I was playing online games with him and like spending a lot of time being sedentary. And
because you had to.
I had no energy, that kind of thing. But it turns out when I went to my doctor, my family doctor, for that first time when I said, I don't feel so hot, I didn't paddle that morning. Every other time I'd seen my doctor, I had paddled in the morning. Low aerobic activity makes my body more insulin sensitive. I still had a little bit of insulin production. So type 1 diabetes, your pancreas isn't producing insulin. I still had a little bit of endogenous insulin production. And so
it was giving a false reading or whatever.
Because I didn't paddle, I didn't have that low aerobic activity to make use of the teeny weeny bit of insulin I had. So that's why everything showed up. And it was like, well, here's one of the reasons why I love paddling so much, because if I go do it, I feel better. Like literally the glucose that's built up in like sludge in my veins and my arteries, it feels like it thins out because my glucose drops because it's going into my body and working better for me. And so I'm having like a normal blood sugar for the first time, whereas the rest of the time I'm living life way the fuck up here. And so when I had started insulin, I was just like, this is what consistent energy feels like. Oh my God, let me go. Like, let's start, I started with a walk run program with the Running Room, which is a running store chain in Canada. And so I started with like their walk run program, learned to 5K, learned to 10K, just to get some fitness back. And I set out this 3-year plan to get back to, top tier paddling kind of thing. And it was just like, okay, let's go. So that's 2007. By the time 2008 rolls around, and I'm starting to get the hang of, taking insulin, these kind of things. But I was on the water and I'd always go low. So I'd go low blood sugar. So low blood sugar means that your brain's not getting enough glucose. You don't have enough glucose in your system. You've either overdosed your insulin or it's just working so much. So I stopped taking my insulin.
Oh, how'd that
because
go?
I wanted to paddle. And so I'd be like high all the time. And then so that I could paddle, which meant, the headaches and all the bullshit that comes along with high blood sugar. You don't feel very good. And so I'd have that just so I could go paddle and not die. Wow. And then, so I got working with the team at Women's College Hospital.
I'm guessing, sorry to interrupt, but I'm guessing that insulin brought out the authentic, real Leanne personality that was being clouded by the lack of insulin. And that's why we were on the couch and playing video games and maybe with that guy, right? Because once you started on insulin, like, the world became your oyster. You were completely unfettered. You could go do anything.
Completely.
Physically.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. Like when we look back at my medical history, so many things that we tried to figure out, like I went through all kinds of different lens prescriptions for glasses, these kind of things. Cause I'm like headaches, these kind of things are like, oh, well, you shouldn't read under your covers with your flashlight, these kind of things. And they're like, we're going to give you reading glasses. And it was just like nothing helped kind of thing. Wow. I was a terror at birthday parties. Because, cake and pop and chips and, white bread, we didn't have that stuff growing up. Wow. My mom was a home ec teacher. And so she taught the cooking classes and the parenting classes and those kind of things. So we were whole grain before whole grain was like a fad. We were low sugar before low sugar was a fad like that. And we were always active. So it was like, it was rare that I'd get those blood sugar spikes. So I'd go to somebody's birthday party. Ooh, all fuck would break. I was that kid having the temper tantrum.
Got it.
That sore loser and all the games, like that was me.
Because it would just whack your whole metabolism, right?
Yeah. Blood sugars would go through the roof, and I didn't know how to handle it.
So you get, I'm sure it takes some time to acclimate to taking insulin and getting on a system. Because if you're sedentary, it can keep you pretty static. But if you are pushing super hard as an endurance athlete, hammering, it really has to be like, you have to be very in tune with it. I've got a buddy, Doug Weems, who has done the Catalina Classic, I don't know, probably 15 times as a type 1 diabetic. And I'm always like, it's just, it adds a whole, what you guys deal with adds a whole nother level of complexity and difficulty and challenge. And yet you're operating at the highest level. Yeah. Right? Because it's really incredible from the outside world looking at somebody like you that has to navigate this whole other piece.
Because nutrition fueling, right? Especially for endurance athletes, you're taking in carbs while you do it in order to perform. Well, taking in carbs, if my body doesn't have insulin to process those, it doesn't do anything to help me. They can actually hinder me. And so it's just like, okay, you have to find the insulin that you need to take. So 2008, working with my team, they put me on an insulin pump, which is an infusion pump. So you've got a tube here with insulin, and it's programmed by a certain amount you put in, and it feeds your body. The systems now are fantastic because they're a little automated with AI, where they feed back from what your blood sugars are. Before, you used to have to tell it everything. But working with them.
So I'm sorry, but so like that right there.
Yeah.
If you're paddling and it's programmed in, it's just tracking you, and it's pop like little bits and pieces.
A little bit more or a little bit less, depending on what the trend of my blood sugar is.
That's got to be a game changer, right?
Oh my God, night and day.
Life-changing, right?
Night and day.
It allows you to do what you do at the level that you do, maybe?
It helps. I'm not going to lie. I did one of my Molokai solos blind, whereas my CGM wasn't working.
Oh.
I forgot to pack it. It was on Oahu when I was on Molokai. And so I've done one blind.
Blind meaning you didn't
not
have
knowing
it.
what my blood sugars was.
Yeah.
I had the pump to give me insulin, but it wasn't adjusting up and down based on what was happening throughout my race and how much carbs I ingested and that kind of stuff. So I did one blind.
A whole nother element that most of us would never have to consider.
That was the year that was massive.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
When I didn't have an escort boat, can't find me.
Oh my gosh, listen to you.
That's a whole different story. But yeah, so my team at Women's College Hospital, they were fantastic. They worked out everything of like, okay, if you're training for this long, this is how many carbs you need before, this is how many carbs you need during, and here's how much insulin you're going to take for it. Like, they dialed it in, and I still base everything I do off that framework.
Okay, so over the years, you've gotten it, so it's pretty...
Yeah, I have notes of everything from races.
And you've got it pretty dialed in, so it doesn't, unless you go blind by forgetting something. But
it's an afterthought now.
It's not something you have to actively really worry. You have to plan for, but you don't have to worry about it mid-race, mid-channel, whatever.
Try not to.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's emergency protocols that you have to have always at the ready, right?
Yes.
That most of us don't have to
We
have.
saw that at Hano a couple of years ago.
Is that
down
right?
in San Diego.
Just as an example.
So Hano's a race in San Diego in January. So it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. That's right.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
I won't be there.
So in one of these races, and so my pump feeds information to my phone, which then feeds information for my watch. It's not quite pumped to watch yet. So I have a screen, so it rolls through, most people on their watches, they'll have, your speed, your heart rate, the time, the distance, those kind of things. I also have a screen that gives my blood sugars. Wow. And so it can tell me what my blood sugars are and where they're trending, if they're going up, if they're going down, those kind of things. So I start getting alerts. In the race, we turn the top buoy, or we're on our way up to the top buoy. So it's supposed to be a 9-mile race. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. Yep. This is one of the fun things about Hano. You never know where that second buoy is. And so I know something's coming because I can feel it. So I feel it before the alarms start going off. That's telling me I'm dropping. And it's like, okay, I'm dropping. I've got carbohydrates in my hydration pack. I've got some there. It doesn't help. So I grab the gel, the emergency gel that I have stuck to my canoe in a readily accessible position. Usually they're up my pants at the bottom usually now because it's just easier to grab those. And it's just like, okay, give it, a little bit more time, keep paddling, not working. And so I'm obviously slowing down because my body's getting ready to shut off and kill me with low blood sugar. Like, I'll pass out.
That is the risk?
When you go hypoglycemic, the risk is you're going to pass. You're going to lose consciousness.
Wow. Not great when you're a one-man outrigger out in the ocean.
No, not particularly. And so I'm paddling by, and I ask, I get past, and I ask. It's a friend of. We're all friends out there, right? We know each other. Yeah, sure. So one of the other girls passes me. I was in first, and she passes me to take over. And I was just like, do you have a gel on you? And she's like, no, I don't. So I just told her, I'm going low. Do you have another gel? She's like, no, I don't. And I was like, fuck. Okay. And so she passes me. And then another girl passed on the inside. And I was like, oh, shit. And so I carry emergency, a backup plan with me. But it's in a little dry bag. So you have to stop. You have to get it out, do it. And of course, low blood sugar, I start to shake. Mm. And so I've got these tremors trying to shake it. So I'm trying to, like, my hands are wet. I'm trying to open a fruit bar, these kind of things to eat it. And it's like, okay, shove 2 of those down my gullet, put the garbage back in the bag and put it back and just keep paddling and hope for the best. Because
you're here.
I should stop, but I don't stop, those kind of things. And so it's like, okay, then, I start to feel better and I'm like, thank fuck. And it's just like, I'm like, okay, like my race is done. Like that's what I have in my mind. I'm like, I just want to stay alive.
You still probably beat me. So I think.
So slowly, but surely, I start to get feeling okay again, start to reel in one girl, reel in the other girl, reel in some more people in the jetty. And it's just like finish and I'm okay. But it's just like that having low blood sugars out there is just like, if I don't have my emergency stash with me, and I tend to keep it. Sometimes I have it on my body. In big races, I have it on my body just in case I lose my canoe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's happened.
Is that right?
Yeah, 2009 in Greece.
Tell that story. Why not?
We'll do the short version. People that have heard the long version. So short version, I'm 2009 in Greece. This is, I'm now in year. This is the 3rd year of my get back to the top, but I've already accomplished a few things. I'm like, oh, cool. So I was on the national dragon boat team. World championships were in Prague. First trip to Europe ever. I'm like, let's make the most of this. I had already decided that I was going to take a leave of absence and train full time. So the Worlds were at the end of August. And so I didn't have to go back to school for the first time that September. So I spent a bit of time before the Worlds in Germany with my brother who was playing hockey there at the time. Got to visit him, see him play hockey, go to Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, and then meet up with the team in Prague. And it's like, that's where I won my first world gold medal, was with Dragon Boat in Prague. And like the group of girls that we had for that team, I would go back and race with them in a reunion in a heartbeat. We had so much fun and then travel around Prague and then go down to Vienna, go through Switzerland. Like I'm doing it up. I was supposed to meet a paddle van in Barcelona, but the train had a detour and I ended up in Marseille.
Sounds like a hell of an adventure.
Oh, freaking adventure.
Right?
So end up with this paddle van because there's a gentleman in Ontario, Pete Budai, who does paddling excursions. That's the word, thank you. And so he had just finished one in Barcelona. So they picked me up going through Marseille. And we drove through to Bari, Italy, and took the ferry across from Bari over to Greece. And so we ended up on Zakynthos, which is a Greek island. And that's where our excursion was going to be. And so we're paddling. And so, we all are in one villa. And then we just have a trailer full of boats and you just go paddle different places every day. OC2s.
OC2s.
He had his an OC1, but we're all on OC2s. And so one day we planned to go out to this shipwreck. And so if you have a Microsoft computer, it's called Shipwreck Beach, and it often pops up as one of their stock images. Freaking trauma every time. So we were going to paddle the Shipwreck Beach, but nobody had ever been there. He hadn't done this excursion before. And the waves and swell start coming up as we're paddling out. But we actually don't know how far it is. And so it's like, wind and waves, fantastic. I'm having a blast, right?
I'm going to downwind somewhere.
Yeah, there's going to be waves to ride at some point. The coastline is 100-foot sheer rock cliff. So we're paddling out. And unfortunately, these boats had a manufacturing issue where the amas would take on water.
It's not good.
No. And so in order to get, especially in the waves, like flat water, they were fine. So we hadn't noticed it before. But we got out in the waves and water's coming over your ama, these kind of things, especially because a lot of people are novices. I had a dragon boater in front of me. Lovely lady, but, just a little anxious. And so there's a lot of left leaning going on. And so water's coming into the ama, and so the ama starts to sink a little. So you have to get off your canoe, flip it, pull the plug on the ama, drain the water.
Oh my gosh.
Flip it back over and get back on and keep going. You're fine. So relatively easy fix for in the moment, but there's a lot of jellyfish, and you're going through these patches of jellyfish. And so it's just like, okay, do I want to get off right now? Because I don't know what kind of jellyfish these are. And so
I'm in Greece.
Yes.
I'm in a boat with somebody that's not a super accomplished paddler. We're in wind and waves. We're offshore. We're along sheer cliffs. We don't know where we're going, and there's jellyfish. Okay.
Yeah. And so finally we see the tourist boats start to turn in. We're like, okay, it must be up there. because the only map that I had seen up to that point was on a napkin at a restaurant of the island. And so you kind of had an idea
on it? And
where you started and where you were going.
This is where the pirates left the gold.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, we had kind of split into two groups by that point. And so the operator was with the slower group. And then like we had a girl who was eventually became an Olympian on one of the other OC2s. And then there's her partner, and then there was me. And so we're fine, we're going. And so we see the tourist boat going in. We're like, oh, okay, we must finally be there. We've been on the water for probably a couple hours by now. Wow. And the whole plan was to go and have lunch. So we had packed lunches and dry bags and all that stuff. We were going to go into the beach and have lunch. And so, you surf your way into the beach because the waves are beautiful. But at the time, the owner had come by the two of us and we're like, are they okay back there? He's like, yeah, they're fine. He's like, but my arm is filling with water and I'm just going to go. We're like, okay, we'll see you in there. And so the five of us end up on the beach.
Nobody else around?
Where are the other two canoes? They're not there. So we're supposed to have lunch. I'm type 1 diabetic.
Oh, gosh.
I need fuel. So I think at that point I had a granola bar, but one of the women that had made it to the beach with us, her son was in the other group. And it's an adult son, like he's in his 20s. But we're just like, oh shit. So she's like, we gotta go find him. So the owner and I were like, okay, we're the most experienced. We'll go out through the shore break and out through the waves and paddle out and see if we can find them. Kind of thing. So he and I get on an OC2, we go out and we're looking around, it was swells, right? You're up and down, your sight lines are limited. But we're just like, would they have turned around? We were so close. Like, would they have, where would they have gone? You couldn't have missed this turn. And so we're like, okay. And so we come back in, pick up the other people on the beach. And we're like, we got to go. If they didn't turn around, we got to go. We don't have any communication device.
Let me jump in real quick. This is one of those, for anybody that's done adventures, whether on land, in the water, these are those things where you're like, in hindsight, you're like, all these things, we shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't have done this.
We all should have PFDs. We all should have had leashes.
On and on and on. But the pit in your stomach, I'm guessing everything turned out all right, but I know that feeling when you're like, oh my God, where, what, how, what are we going to do? That is a terrible feeling.
Yeah. So we all start paddling out, and then we get a little bit, and then we have one of these tourist boats coming towards us from the cliff. And we're like, that's not their usual trajectory. So they're coming out from the cliff, and then we see our people on their boat. So first thought is they're safe. That's the main thing. They're safe. And then the operator's just his second thought is, I need these canoes for more excursions. Where are the canoes? Yeah. So their almost had filled up, and they didn't know to flip it over to empty them. And so the Almas just sunk, the boat flipped, and you can't stay on top of a boat that's on its side. And so they got washed into the shore, and one of them had climbed up to try and get somebody's attention, and somebody on the tourist boat thought it was a weird bird. And so they went to investigate and found 4 people.
Yikes, scary.
So, they get off, they're going back to port, they're safe, fine, fantastic. So then there's still 2 OC2s and the OC1 with the operator out on the water. We go check to see if those canoes are okay.
The punchline is, did you lose your boat?
Eventually.
You lost your boat.
So the lunches we consolidated into bags. Yeah, it wasn't on my canoe.
No.
My food wasn't on my canoe.
Okay, you survived.
So we survived. Everybody ends up safe. Lots of calamities happen. It ends up being just the owner operator and I left in an OC2. Everybody else, we got on tourist boats. We had a few boats being ripped apart as the tourist boats tried to tow them, and they just tried to gun it and go back too fast. We ended up on a Whitestone beach, which was the only other pull-off point between port and Shipwreck Beach. And we pulled in there because we had to keep flipping our boat and getting back on, and I couldn't get back on anymore.
Because you had no insulin.
I was shaky. I had no coordination. I couldn't think very well. And we were towing another canoe with us on the inside of our ama by that point, just a hull.
It sounds like a make-believe story.
Oh, it is. So then finally, I'm just like, if I keep paddling, I'm going to die. I haven't had food, but my pump's still giving me insulin, the same amount of insulin that it would, regularly. I hadn't turned it down to give me less or anything like that. And I'm just like, shit. And the adrenaline had worn off and those kind of things. And so it's just okay, if I keep paddling, I'm going to die.
So what happened?
So we get washed up on this beach, essentially, because I have no coordination whatsoever, crawl ourselves up there, and I'm going in and out of consciousness.
Oh my God.
Sitting on this beach. There's no source of carbohydrate. There's no plant life, no nothing to try and get any carbohydrate. And so I'm just like, I was like, okay, like I just won my very first world championship. I'm meeting my goals of, coming back from diabetes. And so if this is my time, this is my time. What a way to go out.
So what happened?
Eventually we got rescued from there. My body, like liver starts dumping glycogen to recover from it, all these kind of things. I don't know exactly the physiology of it, but we ended up getting rescued and I was okay. And
oh my gosh,
But he had to watch me go in and out of consciousness, and I'm going in and out of consciousness. And like from that point on, it just really changed the trajectory of like, I don't have anything guaranteed in my life. Anything can happen at any moment. So let's live a life that I want instead of what's expected of me. And so let's go. So that was 2009, and that was the beginning of, leave of absence, training full time, driving out west in my car and living out of my car.
So the punchline to that horrible experience was a life-changing decision or recognition that nothing's guaranteed. Let's go.
Yeah. Like I was already on that path of, I was taking the next 2 years to train for the 2010 Worlds. And it was just like, let's go. Because I came.
So let me ask you. Harrowing, scary, gnarly experience, almost died in and out of consciousness. Yeah. Horrible stories of everything along the path.
Mommy, I want to come home early. Can we pay to change my flight?
Would you have changed it?
Hindsight, no. I learned so much from that. And the lessons that I learned from that of like to always have my glucose on me, be prepared for the worst. You never know what can happen. Well, fast forward to 2024, Molokai Solo, when it's the biggest year they've ever seen for the solo. And I have everything on my canoe. I have the hydration. I have enough hydration to last me the race. Even I'll have to ration it, but I have enough with me. I have all my nutrition with me on the canoe. I have my emergency nutrition on my body, on a pack on my body, just in case I get separated from my canoe, because that's what happened there. I got separated from the food. And so that in the 2024, they released the escorts early. They usually wait about 20 minutes to release the escorts. And on the escorts, they're your water drops, they're your support team, they're helping you with navigation, these kind of things. And my boat never found me. So I went across.
Never.
They found me after 3 hours and 48 minutes, and I was by Sandy's. So I was like, you're supposed to be, Port Lock. I was at Sandy's. Because I had only crossed the channel a couple times by that point. I didn't know my navigation. I always had someone to tell me to keep my line. So I hadn't really paid that much attention to which is which.
If you're a paddler, you know a lot about the Molokai to Oahu race. If you don't, 32 miles across, and it's unlike the Catalina. Ocean. It's open, big water, big water, and that year was giant. Massive. So you're really, there's a lot of other boats out there, but you might not see them or they might be way over there. Yeah. Hard to find your own boat. It's hard to find and identify paddlers. Yeah. And you have to know there's so much that Johnny Pouquet will talk about that channel and how it is. He's like, it's not a surfing race. It's like a navigation race. Like you really have to know where to go and how to surf and all this. And so you ended up way at the South Shore. Yeah.
So they found me. So eventually I caught up to another canoe, an escort boat. And I was just like, can you tell my boat where I am? And they're like, oh, you're the one we've been looking for. Oh, wow. You're the one everybody's been looking for. And I wasn't the only one who didn't get, their escort didn't find them. There was about a handful of us. So mine found me. And by that point, I was essentially at the China Walls.
We were 4 miles from the finish at that point.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. And but I had everything I needed, hydration-wise, nutrition-wise, spare paddle, everything. I was self-sufficient if I needed it. And it's like, okay, if it's just like, if it's my time, it's my time. Like there's some things I can't control. I controlled all my variables that I could.
Other than the course, how did you feel during that race?
Oh, it was a blast. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Like that was the biggest water I've ever been in, kind of thing, especially a Canadian, right? I don't get to
train in a lake.
I trained up until that point. I had trained in lakes. I was just about to move to Vancouver Island, where I have an ocean 10 minutes away. But up until that point, it was all lakes and rivers. So it's just like, I traveled a lot, got some ocean experience. So this is the biggest mass of water, but I'm having the time of my life. Like Jimmy Austin the night before.
Except that you don't know where to go.
Except I don't know where to go. Jimmy Austin the night before had given me like a rough compass bearing. So I had a compass bearing on my watch, on my boat, just to help me, because if you can't see things, because at some point in the channel, there's often you can't see Oahu. Yep. So he said, like, here's the rough compass bearing. Thank God he said that. that night. And he's also like, don't look behind you because these monster walls of water. Well, there's a couple times I looked behind me and went, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But it was huge. But I was like, okay, I'm making use of this as best as I know how. And I was having the time of my life. I was all alone. I had nobody to share it with.
But your nutrition and everything worked.
Oh, it was great.
Perfect.
It was on par. Like in terms of the energy I had, it was fine. I had no idea what my blood sugars were because that was the year I flew blind too because I forgot my Dexcom.
Well, you're still here, which is great.
Here.
Well, listen, there's so many. So anybody that's been listening can pick up on how much international competing you've done and traveling.
Yeah.
But I love the fact, and this is what I didn't know, is that it was based on that Greece experience that made you go, I'm going. Did you stop teaching around that time?
So I took the leave of absence, finished off the 2009 school year. And then from there, I was able to extend my leave of absence from 1 year to 2 years, just because I was having a blast, out west, these kind of things, and I met a boy. And so it's just like, how do I extend this? I want to be out west. And so eventually I got a job in the private sector in 2011. So I started working at a residential treatment program for at-risk youth. And so I worked there from 2011 to 2017. I started off as a teacher in their program. And then I kind of moved up the ranks to kind of like the academic coordinator. We went through a phase where we were an independent school, so we were a private school. And I went through that certification process with the certifiers, and I was the principal of that school for the year that we were a school. And then the owner decided not to be a school anymore.
Got it.
And then I went back to being, I forget what my role was, but eventually I ended up as executive director.
Got it. So you've done a lot in the education space, but at some point you pulled the pin and you're like, I'm just going to go be international sport athlete and coach, right?
Kind of. Like working at that treatment center, I learned a lot of skills and a lot of working with the youth. During that time, like I still wanted to get it back into public education because, summer's off. How can you beat that? And just the stress level of working at a treatment center with at-risk youth. When I was being called to make decisions on do we call this kid's bluff when they're making threats against their health and safety or the health and safety of someone else. And those were my calls. And I'm sorry, but you can't pay me enough to do that.
Tough,
That's
for sure, right?
Like I did it in the moment, but I'm answering calls from Mexico. I'm answering calls from Hawaii. Like wherever my travels were, I had to answer the phone. And I'm just like, I couldn't turn it off. And so throughout that time, I was told that, if you want to get back into public education, you need your inclusive ed diploma. So special education, working with people with cognitive and physical disabilities. And so I started doing school part-time at that time and was getting that diploma. And then I was like, as I was principal and executive director, I'm like, okay, well, it looks better for the company if I have a master's of education. So as I was finishing up my post-bac diploma in inclusive ed, I started my master's. And so
you have a lot of degrees, sister.
I have a lot of education.
You love education though, right?
I love learning. Yeah. I love learning. I'm just such a curious personality in more ways than one.
Indeed.
So starting my master's, and then I was still working through my master's when I got offered a job with this local school district. And so in November of 2017, I changed over from the company to the local school district and started working as what we call a resource teacher, where you're a case manager for people with all kinds of physical and cognitive disabilities. And so I did that from 2017 up until about 2020. And then I became a consultant. Within the district, I just stepped up a different role where you're helping other teachers manage their cases and giving them advice. And I was really a systems person, so building systems. And when the pandemic hit, even though I was a resource teacher, I had all these ideas to set up all these automated systems to help support all our paraprofessionals and our teachers support their kids who were learning at home. Those kind of things. And doing a lot of training videos of how do you use Zoom, how do you set up Google Drive, how do you do all these kind of things. So I just became one of the technical experts. And also with our learning management system, where we had to put all our grades and write all our inclusive education plans, I just had that tech side in me, and so I started running a lot of those trainings. So I got a job as a consultant with the district, and then other things happened before the pandemic that made working very difficult.
Are you talking about the car accident?
Yeah.
So in addition to dealing with diabetes as we've discussed, and still competing at the highest level and training super hard and having harrowing situations and working and getting additional degrees, you have this car accident.
Yeah.
And why don't you talk, so you've had a TBI.
So second
brain.
last day of school, 2019, going from the middle school I was working at the time to the paddle center, which is, 3-mile drive. See, I can speak American. It's about a 3-mile drive, and stopped at a red light. And apparently the person behind me didn't realize we were all stopped and decided to go full speed into the back of my SUV.
Oof.
And so, concussion, whiplash. And so, it's the head injury that hasn't gotten better. So yes, I've had concussions in my past. I was a hockey player. I was a soccer goalie, so I got kicked in the face, these kind of things. But they've all the concussions or having my bell rung over the years, they've all cleared up within a couple of weeks, those kind of things, and I'm fine. This one, it just never cleared up. So since that day in 2019, I have not had a day without a headache. Oof. And so having gone through the whole not having diabetes and not knowing it, and having what was a headache, and I just thought that was normal living, and now it's a different kind of headache now, but now having a headache again every day, and I'm like, no, this is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. And so it's just like, okay. But I live with a headache every day. Sometimes there's migraines. Often there's migraines. My eyes don't track very well anymore, so I haven't read a book since 2019. Wow. I can read a couple pages, but then I get really nauseous. The headache goes up. The ringing in my ears gets worse, these kind of things. And then trying to understand what I read, trying to read high level things. Again, all the degrees, all the learning. I was 1 semester away from having my master's when the accident happened. And so I was on my final project, my culminating project, where, you're doing a lot of lit review, reading journal articles. And I'm like, I can't comprehend a journal article anymore. It's just too complicated to try and pull out the information. Just because I can't make connections between a lot of information, new information. And so it's just and I can't concentrate, and it causes pain all the time. And so,
still managing it. But yet you've still been able to, it's an unfortunate frustration, but it seems like you've played through pretty well. You're still training, you're still coaching, you're still traveling.
Just differently. So one of the lessons I learned through the concussion was it forced me to slow down. So I'm a big girl. I was a varsity shot putter, right? Hockey player, these kind of things. So I'd muscle through things on the water. Waves, let's muscle through. Let's muscle my way over it. Let's muscle my way onto it. So just after the accident, that's the end of June. What's in July? Gorge.
The gorge.
Yep. Right? So I'd been going to the gorge for a number of years up to then, since the first one. And it was just okay, I have lessons and stuff scheduled at the gorge. What am I going to do? I can't work that hard. So it's just okay, there's a limiter on me that I can't get my heart rate up past a certain point, because that's when the headaches absolutely get worse and explode, and stuff happens to my vision, and I lose vestibular control, these kind of things. So it's just okay, so how do I play at the gorge, because this is what makes me happy, and still not really hurt myself. And so it's just how do you, learning how to use the waves, learning how to be more efficient.
As opposed to grit.
Exactly. Slow down to go faster.
Yeah.
So being a lot more strategic, being a lot more technical, those kind of things.
Okay, super interesting. So what have you learned? Did you get faster even though you're working less hard?
Training a fraction of the time, but because I have to be more technically sound, I have to be more strategic, I have to try and use the water more. I've been, over the first few years, no, not at all. But the past couple of years, the more I coach, the more I talk about things, I've gotten faster just because I have a great long training age. So I don't need as much to keep what I have. It's really hard for me to build fitness or build certain things because that's just too much energy. So it's okay, I got to be strategic. I got to be technical. How do I do this? How do I use everything that's given to me to my advantage? So whether it's drafting, whether it's wind, whether it's current, riding eddies, whether it's mind games.
Well, I'll tell you, not from the competitive side, but I did a couple runs with you a couple years ago at the Gorge. And the Gorge is the Columbia River Gorge, Washington, Oregon, world-class downwind destination for any wind sports, and world-class downwind paddling.
Yep.
And we did a couple runs, and just watching, like I always say, downwind paddling is kind of like mogul skiing. Anybody can go down it, but the people that really understand it, it's completely different than most people. And you're one of those, right? And watching people like you that really understand downwind paddling it's pretty magic, and I'm not one of them. So it was cool to be able to go with you and watch you just connect the dots and really effortlessly look effortless while going super duper fast. So I totally had the benefit of being able to see what you're talking about.
And I'm not even the level that's possible, right? You look at there's some great downwinders out there, and it's just like, I want to be like them.
I know. I've had a bunch of them in here, right?
Oh, I know.
But I think all of that must tie in to your ability to coach. Because again, you've now got the grit side of it. You've got the formal training and education in it. You've been coaching forever, and now you've had to learn the real nuance and finesse of paddling versus just grinding it out. Yep. And you love to coach and teach. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about coaching. It's why you're here. Yeah. Let's talk about coaching and what that means and how that works for you.
It's like I said, I started coaching figure skating when I was, grade 8-ish kind of thing. And I started taking coaching courses from our national coaching certification program when I was in high school. So it's like, I've always been learning, I've got a track and field coaching certification as well. And so,
of course you do. 87
more courses,
acronyms after your name.
Yeah. Right? And so I love, it's just the same as teaching, right? I love the light bulb moments when you see someone that's frustrated with something, and then it's just by something you get them to look at it from a different way, try something different, that they just and it's so cool to see and to be able to have a hand in that you can help raise this person from where they're starting to just level up a little bit or level up a lot, as we saw this week when you have 4 days with people. You just get that continuous, we're here, we build. And it's so similar to teaching. So because I can't last a full day in a classroom anymore, there's just too much going on. My brain overloads. I can't react as quickly as I need to in situations, especially with children that struggle with behavior issues and impulsiveness. That used to be my jam. But because I can't forethink 20 steps ahead or 50 steps ahead in some cases to go, okay, if they do this, then I'm going to do this. If I react this way, they're going to do this, play all the if-then situations. Because I can't do that anymore, it's like, okay, well, how could I still get this fulfillment of helping people and leveling people up? And that's what, I did a little bit of coaching before, but now I do a lot more, because if I can't do this, then let's do this. Oh, darn, I have to come to places with palm trees, right, and it tends to be warm. But I can do my schedule. It's like, okay, it's only an hour here, or it's only 2 hours, and then I can go, lay on the grass somewhere, or I can go sit in the car, or I can go nap all afternoon so that I can do it again the next day.
And again, these are all implications of the TBI that concussion you're still dealing with.
So what people see is I'm out on the water, I'm traveling, I'm coaching, these kind of things. And I give the disclaimer when I'm coaching, I'm like, if I can't find a word and I'm talking around a word, if you think you know it, it's like a game show, shut it out. There's points, but they don't add up to anything. But what people don't see is that the crash, right? I can fake it. I can pretend I'm okay. Even if I have a migraine, there's sometimes I can still fake it and get through it, because it fills my heart so much just seeing the smiles on people's faces, the enjoyment, them improving. But then I go home and crash. And after doing something like the Molokai Solo, I'll basically be in bed for the next 2 weeks. Really? And it takes me about a month to get back to the baseline of the headache level and the energy level that I was before the solo.
It just taxes your brain that much.
Yeah, and my body and my nervous system.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, right. So it's just I can choose these adventures, but what's the cost? So it's there's no doubt I'm going to nap this afternoon. I'm going to nap before I go to San Diego this afternoon.
Gotcha.
Just from having to think and talk and tell stories and react.
Well, I'm guessing in coaching, nobody would know. I mean, I would never know that you're dealing with those things as we sit here right now. Yeah. You would never pick up on it, because I think you've really, mastered the ability to work through. But again, that's also sport, right? You know how to push through, and then you're going to pay the price, whether it's sport or now and you're dealing with mental health, whatever. But on the coaching side, just when you talk, you hear the passion, you see the passion, which is rad. What would your students, but in this case, these women that you've been coaching this week, and you're not coaching alone, but what do you what do you think people say or think about you as a coach after they've finished a 4-day event? Like, are they going, man, Leanne was what's your secret sauce or superpower that you think people feel or see?
One of the things that the feedback that I get is that I scaffold things very well. So it's like, start from here. Like, I don't just go, here's all the information, go do it, try it. It's like, no, we're starting here, here's the step, and then we're gonna layer a layer of complexity onto it. And then we're gonna add another layer of complexity. And then we're gonna add another layer of complexity. It's not just throwing you the whole gambit. It's like, no, let's like building a recipe, right? You gotta start with a few ingredients. You can't just go, okay, here's the finished product. Yeah. And so I attribute that back to my teaching background, right? You've got to meet all the students that you're with where they're at, and then give everybody entry points. Like, yeah, someone may be, at a higher level and be able to do more things than this new paddler. So you got a 1-year paddler, you got a 10-year paddler, but it doesn't hurt the 10-year paddler to come back to foundations. If anything, it's going to help that 10-year paddler more because they've probably let some of those foundations slide a little bit.
For sure.
And so just being able to scaffold and find multiple ways to explain, and depending on what the person needs, if they're really kinesthetic, like hands-on, feely, then it's okay, we're going to talk about feeling. We're going to go, okay, here's what it should feel like. Here's different ways to start to feel it. Here's where you want to feel it. Or there's some people that are super analytical. I love Johnny to death. He's a great coach. And he's just like, just feel it. Just feel it. And I'm like,
you've got his name on your chest. You better.
Yeah. He keeps bringing me back to coach, so he knows exactly what I do. But I say this to all the paddlers. I'm like, so Johnny told you that you want to feel this, or just feel it, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, and you're going, how the fuck do I do that? I'm like, I'm going to tell you how the fuck to do that. We're going to break it down so that you now know you can go back to him. He's like, oh, you found it. And I'm like, yep, you did. But just a different approach. So I sometimes say I'm the Johnny Whisperer. I'm like, I'll just translate what he's saying into a different way and then come back.
Everybody needs that, right? Like my business partner and I, like we riff off each other because people understand how he says something or how I like it. You all have to speak a little bit different language and come together.
That's the beauty of this camp, because we had 3 coaches plus Johnny. So we had myself, we had April Zilg, and we had Grace up from Dana Point. And so we all are saying the same thing, but in different ways. And our approach is all different. So when you get to work your way through all the coaches, if you can't understand what the fuck I'm saying, like, okay, April's saying this pretty much the same thing, but a little different. Okay, but what she says works for you. Or the way Grace demonstrated this works for you. Or what Johnny really works for you. Like, you just keep playing off each other. And like, that was some of the comments we had in our wrap up yesterday. They're just like, you're all saying the same thing, but you're all so different. But it's all building off what each other's doing. And it's just like, yeah, we totally planned it that way.
Well, I think that, just thinking back to when Johnny was here, he talks about his coaching and I'll butcher it, but what he said was so on point. And he's like, if the student don't understand what I'm saying, it's on me, right? Then I'm not using the right words, so if you have multiple coaches that all speak or show differently, then you're hitting it from different angles, right?
Completely. And like, I've been blessed that I've been able to work with coaches all over the world in all different disciplines, from marathon to surf ski to SUP, to outrigger to V1, like coaches from Tahiti, Hawaii, South Africa. Like, I've worked with a lot of different coaches for different paddle sports, and just being able to take all like their style and that what they say, what works for me, what I can see working for different people. It's just like taking all that from all these different places to bring it in. And like, I did my first outrigger clinic in 2008. And it's like, I just took another one last year. Like, so I'm still taking clinics to learn, because I want to be the best coach I can be for the people that I want to help. Plus, like, I'm an athlete. I got young girls coming up, and I know I'm their target because I had targets when I was the young girl. And it's just like, okay, they're going to pass me. I want them to pass me, but I got to make it fucking hard for them to do so.
That's so great. Leanne, that's so on point. I always say, like, as I was getting older, I was never at the level that you were, but I would say, like, I'll be the first one to high five somebody if they pass me, but they're going to have to earn it.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I'm not going to give it to them.
I'm not going to give it. And this came up in a race, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I think it was 2 years ago. And there's this really great Canadian paddler. She's been on my team for a couple of years. We've raced together a lot. I love her to death. And so she's just like, I know she's on my tail. I'm like, I know she's on my tail. The finish is right there. I know she's on my tail. I was in a borrowed boat. I borrowed a Cantare just for shits and giggles. And so we're coming into the end, and It was like her premonition came through, and she's like, Hoolie, I hope she hoolies. I hope she flips. I hope she flips. I flipped.
Oh.
The wave just caught me the wrong way. I wasn't paying attention. I went in. She passes me while I'm in the water, and I'm just like, I get back in. I'm like, not today. It's not going to be today. I don't care if it kills me. It's not going to be today.
Oh.
Your time is not yet.
You chased her down?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, listen. Well, to that end, are you still trying to win stuff? Using different strategies, thought process? I mean, are you still that competitive?
Winning I can't control. I can only control my performance out there, well, to a certain point, and how I prepare for that. So if I come off the water and I feel like I've given my all, done my best, that's a win to me. Because there's other people and there's some amazing female paddlers out here. Like, look at last year's women's Kaiwi channel, right? Like, I was 6th, and like I paddled the best I think I ever had out there, and I only flipped once instead of multiple times, because that whole vestibular function that I lose when I push too hard. And so I came off that. I was super stoked. I had no idea where I finished. If I ended up 12th, who cares? Like, I was so excited that I was able to lay down a performance that I wanted. My escort boat was with me. So coming off the water for that. And that's kind of how I have to approach races now, because all I can do is control. I can't even control my preparation per se, because if I'm having a super low energy, major headache day, or like I can't walk straight, I may not race tomorrow. Just because I've got this thing in my chest going on, and my migraines this week have been really bad. I may not race tomorrow. I'll go and I'll be around, but I may not race. Or I may go out and race and just have fun, right? Just go out to be on the water with, a couple hundred other people, just because it's fun and it's enjoyable and it's on the water. And it's a great race that I like to support.
And it's also a very healthy outlook to recognize, like, you can only control what you can control. And if it's not your day, it's not your day. But I just want to give you kudos, considering what you overcome every day with the TBI and with diabetes and everything else, to still be at the level that you are is super impressive and incredible, and to be able to overcome and persevere and push through. And I just want to give you big kudos for that. Listen, I think it's super important. Like, I think anybody's going like, how does she fund all this? How does she travel so much? How does she spend so much time? But there's also somebody at home supporting this.
Yes.
And what's his nickname? What's Rick's nickname?
Are
you allowed to say it? Because you
told
me.
So a lot of the paddle community, like if you're familiar with Sesame Street, I say he's like Snuffleupagus. Everybody knows that he exists, but very few people have actually seen him or met him. But yeah, my husband Rick, we met when I was on my sabbatical in 2009 out west, and just hit it off. We've been married for almost 15 years now. And yeah, he's my rock. Like, my parents and him, they're my rock. They're my foundation. He gives me a reason to go home. Otherwise, I could be traveling 12 months of the year, being, traveling around the world, warm places. But he gives me a reason to go home. Oh, that's so yes, he's there. But I also, early in my life, I was privileged to not come out of school with debt. So I came out. The money I made was my money. I've always been very frugal. And so I've just been very blessed of people that house me when I go around the world and feed me, those kind of things. So I do this quite frugally. I don't spend a lot of money, and we live quite frugally as well. And so, like, when we want to spend money, we have money to spend. But because, we don't make money in outrigger, but it's like, okay, if I can, early in the years, it was like, if I can cover the cost of my adventures by coaching and giving back, that kind of thing, then that's a bonus. And then it's just grown from there. But we're living on working full time as my first few years as a teacher with no debt. I built a bit of a nest egg.
Good for you.
Helps.
And along this path that you've been on, you still have sponsors, like from a sponsorship side, who's still supporting you in sport?
So Hanaho Paddle Sports has been a huge supporter of mine for a long time. They're the ozone dealer up in Western Canada. And so Zoe Norcross knew, she's one of my great friends and teammates now too. One of the reasons I moved there, like I moved to where that location is and where she is, and she's a big reason for that. So her and Dawn Irvine was part of the company up until recently as well, but they've just been big supporters of, growing paddle sports, and because they've just been a huge vehicle of mine as well to help represent their company, that they trust me with their name, having it on my boat, those kind of things. So they've been a huge supporter of helping me with canoes, and getting to different things and doing different things and some gear. And then, of course, Puakia Designs, Johnny and Cal have been fantastic. Johnny was presenting at a conference up in Canada in around 2017 when I was starting to come back into being competitive again after some time off. And I said, what does it take to be a team rider? And he's like, well, right now we're not taking on team riders, but like we're looking for good people. You don't have to be the fastest, but we're looking for good people who, are out in the community doing good things.
He made that very clear when we were here talking, that's super important to him and his brand.
So not too long after that, I was invited onto the team. So he's been a big supporter, helps me get canoes when I go overseas, certain places, training advice, technique advice. He's been huge. Jim Terrell from Quickblade. I used Quickblade for a number of years. He was a huge supporter there, to the point where it's like I wanted a Stingray. I wanted a certain size of Stingray for the World Championships sprints last year in Hilo. And so we found a way with a paddler coming from here over there to get me that blade. So I got it like 2 days before the sprint started. And then I went and won a gold medal with it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't go down the whole path of all of your medals. And
we don't need to.
No, but
we're good.
But listen, the list is long on multi-craft over many, many decades. It's just really incredible. We might have to tag it all in the footnotes.
It's fun because it's like my first Worlds was in 2008. IVF World Sprints in Sacramento. And it was one of those, why not? It's close, right? And so I finished 4th. And I had never been on a V1 before that. But
V1 is the rudderless.
Rudderless canoe. And I'm like, 4th? What happens if I actually train for this? And that was year 2 of my plan of coming back from diabetes, like of figuring it out. And I was just like, what happens? So that's why I took the sabbatical. And then it was just like, okay, keep going. 2010, I got a bronze. But my team won all gold. Kind of thing. And it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then, Calgary 2012, I had a car accident 3 weeks before. But I was like, I should have won. Like, I was ready to win. I was in the best shape of my life. And then I got 4th. And then I was like, oh, I'm taking this way too seriously because I shouldn't have raced, but I raced. And so I took like the next 2 years playing in SUP and surf ski and being a novice again and learning again. And then I came back to outrigger. And then 2016, 4th. And then it's just building up from there. And then bronze, and then gold.
I always say, some of us never have bronze or gold or 4ths. I mean, listen.
But you learn so much from when you don't win. You learn more when things don't go your way.
Then I must be super, super smart.
Right?
Because I've never won.
So it's just like, I learned more from all those different things. It's like, okay, was it training? Was it this? Was it that? Like, if you can beat me on any given day, kudos to you. Fantastic. But like you said, I'm not going to give it to you.
Well, listen, I think that summarizes it. Like, you're a lifetime learner. Like, you love to learn. You said it from the very beginning, all the degrees. You have all these degrees in paddle sports, all the different crafts, coaching and everything else. I think we all, certainly I can't wait to see what you continue to do as you continue to navigate through these things that you've got, especially the TBI. I'm super proud of all the stuff you've done. It's been rad to watch from outside. It's really cool to be able to talk about it here. If anybody wants to dig in and find out more about you, Leanne, where do they go? Where do you send them?
There is a website, but it hasn't been updated in a very long time. So mostly you just find me on Instagram at the Stanley Edge. That's my coaching handle. And that's usually where I'll post most things. Like, I don't have the energy to put into social media anymore or marketing or updating a website. And so most of it's just word of mouth, but most of my adventures you can find on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, keep up all the adventures and all the great coaching and all the give back that you're doing. Because again, as you said, there's a whole generation of paddlers coming up that are going to benefit from what you're doing. And I know how much fire you get from helping out and coaching.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on here. It's some people know some of my story and there's still way more, but it's fun to talk to people and share what I know because I've been given so much, and it's a privilege and honor and responsibility now to be able to give it on.
Hallelujah. Well done. Thanks so much for being here, Leanne.
Thanks for having me.
Have fun tomorrow.
Thank you.
You.